The United Nations Genocide Convention defines genocide as acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. The Armenian nation, which was the first nation to declare Christianity as a state religion in 301, a nation that retained a strong sense of communal identity embodied in its language and church, suffered the second in magnitude of the 5 largest genocides in recorded history. In 1915, soon after the defeat at Sarikamis, the Ottoman government began to deport Armenians from eastern Anatolia on the grounds that their presence near the front line posed a threat to national security. Thus, in a systematic fashion, by initially rounding up and murdering the professional, intellectual and spiritual leadership of the Armenian community living within the Ottoman lands, and subsequently eliminating over 1.5 million Armenians, a number representing over 50% of the Armenian population of the then Ottoman Empire, were eliminated by forced deportations, marching them into exile through the deserts of Deir el-Zor in Syria, where they were attacked, robbed, raped, and eventually decimated. The victims of the barbaric acts were non-combatants, women, children, and the elderly. By the end of World War I, more than 90% of the Armenians in the Ottoman Empire were gone, and many traces of their former presence had been erased through desecration of churches and religious monuments and obliteration of any evidence of the existence of a nation. The deserted homes and properties of the Armenians in eastern Anatolia were given to Muslim refugees of the now diminished Ottoman Empire, and the surviving women and children were often forced to give up their Armenian identities and convert to Islam. Every year on the 24th of April, the very day the Ottoman authorities rounded up, arrested, deported, and murdered hundreds of Armenian intellectuals and community leaders, the world over Armenians commemorate this deplorable act of genocide. In Cyprus, where I grew up, April the 24th was commemorated with church services, candlelit vigils, school assemblies, a memorial march, and practical acts of altruism such as blood donations. In Cyprus, these commemorations are more poignant, as Cyprus was one of the countries that the Armenians were welcomed to when they fled persecution in Turkey, both sets of my grandparents being amongst the survivors that landed on the shores of Cyprus. Furthermore, the plight of the Armenian nation resonates deep with the Greek Cypriot community, as the Greeks, along with the Assyrians of Asia Minor, were themselves subject to pogroms and massacres by the Ottoman Turks at the turn of the 20th century. The events of 1915 to 1916 were witnessed by a number of foreign journalists, missionaries, diplomats, and military officers who sent reports home about death marches and killing fields, yet to date still remains disappointingly unrecognized as a genocide, given a number of developed countries and nations have yet to formally recognize this crime against humanity, this act of ethnic cleansing representing the worst behavior of man against man. Failure to recognize and publicly condemn acts of genocide and ethnic cleansing and hold to account those responsible means that over the years history repeats itself with different victims. It also means that the process of healing and reconciliation can never start in earnest.